Fit to Love, episode 96, The Truth About Bioidentical Hormones.
Fit to Love is physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness to achieve the happy life you deserve. From exercise to cooking, relationships, and spirituality, you'll find all the inspiration you need right here with our host, JJ Plazanes.
Hello and welcome to Fit to Love Wellness Wednesday. Today's show, The Truth About Bioidentical Hormones. We have a very special guest today. We have Dr. Peters. After graduating from UC Berkeley and USC Medical School, Dr. Peters' medical experience has included acting state epidemiologist with the Centers for Disease Control and chief of emergency medicine for Kaiser Permanente South Bay Medical Center. After 30 years of working in emergency medicine, Dr. Peters began showing signs of low energy, muscle weakness, reduced libido, and depression. Upon leaving the ER and seeking to regain his own health, he discovered he was experiencing andropause, which is a gradual decline of hormone levels in men. Through changes in diet, lifestyle, and natural hormone replacement therapy, Dr. Peters is now a walking advertisement for the benefits of his Nourishing Wellness Health program. As an advocate for preventative medicine, he has studied and trained with Cenegenics Medical Institute, where he became certified in age management medicine. Welcome to the show, Dr. Peters.
Thank you, JJ.
This is a really, really hot topic, bioidentical hormones, and it has been for a really long time, right?
Well, it should have been. The mystery is why it is not more well known how effective and safe and extremely beneficial bioidentical hormones are, with all the benefits of the original hope for pharmaceutical hormones, but without any of the risk, which is substantial for pharmaceutical hormones.
And isn't that the main reason why it's a buzz, though, is because people are afraid of them?
I'm hoping that it's more of a buzz, and thank you for inviting me on the show, because I want to get the word out, because this word should be out there with everybody, with every doctor, and they should be promoting these wonderful bioidentical compounded hormones because of the enormous benefits without the risk of the synthetic hormones, the pharmaceutical hormones. And so I know there's a lot of buzz about the dangers of pharmaceutical hormones, and there should be, because they are very dangerous in many respects. But the problem is that most doctors have not been trained in bioidentical hormones, and that's still the case today. And even doctors will confuse the bioidentical hormones with pharmaceutical hormones, which is almost strange to me, because it's really obvious the difference in the biochemistry between the two, the bioidentical being bioidentical to hormones that we create ourselves, and the pharmaceutical hormones being chemical creations and or from other animals such as horse urine, but they're not, of course, bioidentical as bioidentical hormones compounded by pharmacies are. So you have this very unnatural substances being introduced into the body and really wreaking havoc with the body, and therefore women and men both, and doctors also are wary of them. But the lack of knowledge and information, even though it's all over the place for like 70 years about the benefits of and the safety of bioidentical hormones, just doesn't seem to be getting through. So like I said, I do appreciate this opportunity to make that distinction, because it should be very easy for doctors. And once the doctors get it, then it's going to be helpful to educate patients about it. But right now, it's a lot of confusion because of the doctors themselves being confused, and the media, which also should know better, being confused and grouping all hormones, bioidentical and synthetic pharmaceutical hormones, into one category, which is like hormone replacement therapy, HRT, which should not be done because of the tremendous difference between these two classes of hormones.
So when someone says HRT, that does not include bioidentical and synthetic?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's confusion there. Now, what we use is BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. But like I'm saying, the unfortunate confusion out of the media and even among doctors is because they're still using just the BRT and saying, well, BRT is dangerous. Well, I mean, HRT, if you're just talking about pharmaceutical hormones, yes, it is dangerous, although there's still some benefits, but the dangers, I think, outweigh the benefits. But that's the opposite with the BHRT, which is the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, which is extremely safe and as effective as the hormone replacement therapy.
You said that bioidentical hormones have been around for 70 years?
That's correct.
Wow.
And there have been studies. Yeah, there was they first started being produced, I think it was probably testosterone, I think, that was produced originally 70 years ago and used successfully. But the pharmaceutical companies then came around and they started making synthetic hormones, which it's necessary to do that in order to patent the hormones, because anybody can make bioidentical hormones and they can't be patented. So unfortunately, when they changed them to make them patentable, they also introduced foreign substance into the production and therefore into the bodies of humans. And the result, although initially it appeared to be somewhat favorable and that they do some positive effects, in the long run they proved to be extremely dangerous. And then so all of a sudden the common wisdom is all hormones are dangerous. You know, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is dangerous, so they're all brushed with the same brush, because doctors never were really much at the forefront of prescribing bioidentical hormones, because it is not as promoted in the general medical community, because that is pretty much dominated by pharmaceutical companies, which have the money to promote their products and to make billions of dollars of donations to medical schools and studies and journals. And, you know, that's where we get our information from, and we think that it's the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and it's really not. It's very biased.
So just to be clear for everyone who's listening, Dr. Peters is a medical doctor who went to medical school. Just let us all know, to reinforce, that the curriculums are very influenced by the pharmaceutical companies who are selling us something. Yes. So,
I didn't even realize it myself, JJ. I think we all start off as medical students, you know, very, very excited and innocent, and, you know, we're all out to save the world and every single patient we can get our hands on. And, you know, we're thinking that we're, like I said, we're going to be taught the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And in reality, it took me decades to realize that it's very biased and influenced by, of course, the pharmaceutical companies, which are donating these massive amounts of money and the studies and everything else, and even, you know, paying doctors to do the studies. So really it's even worse than I'm talking about right now. But I want to emphasize the main point rather than being negative, and that is that the good news that I really want to get across to people is that bioidentical hormones are extraordinarily safe and extraordinarily effective. They reverse virtually every aspect of aging to a certain degree, depending on doing all the other things that you need to do, which we also teach here at Nourishing Wellness, all the lifestyle changes that you need to do. But if you do all those lifestyle changes like exercise and eating right and getting sleep and reducing stress and all those other very important aspects of managing your aging, and you do it in an aggressive and sincere and complete manner, that then if you add the bioidentical hormones on, if you need them, by the way, and almost everybody does, but not everybody, and you don't know what they need until you do the test. So we do the extensive test and find out, you know, where people are, men and women, and then act accordingly, replacing what needs to be replaced. And our results have just been absolutely phenomenal over the last 9 years. But, you know, it's, of course, like I said, it's actually 70 years of data now that we have on the safety of these bioidentical hormones and the effectiveness.
I want, for those that don't know you, we're currently being downloaded in 94 countries as of today, and there's a lot of people over the world who might be considering bioidentical hormone therapy, and they may not have heard of me or heard of you before. So I want to paint a picture of that advertisement, that walking advertisement that you are. I want to go, you're welcome. So we're going to go from where you were to where you are now. So where you were when you're working in the ER, can you talk just briefly about some of the, I said it in your bio, but just sort of how bad it was in terms of how you felt?
Yeah, that, of course, was my beginning of my re-education when I burned out as an ER doctor, you know, doing 24-hour shifts back in the day. And after close to 30 years, and I'd been chief of emergency medicine for half of that time period, which, of course, was an additional stress. People can just imagine what it's like to work in an ER for that time period. You just have to kind of imagine it, because you have to do it to really feel it. And, you know, I was pretty much of a skeleton of my former self by the time I was in my early 50s. And by the time I was 56, actually, I was just completely burned out. I mean, I had one point I said, I just can't do this anymore. And basically told the new chief, I had already resigned as chief, and I said, I can't do this anymore, and they said, well, you need to take some time off, which I did. But, I was prescribed Prozac for my symptoms, which is still done today as we speak, giving antidepressants to men and women who have no hormones. So I was very fortunate to find this organization, which still exists today, and it's still a wonderful organization, Cenegenics Medical Institute in Las Vegas, and I happened to pick up a couple of their conference presentations at anti-aging conferences I was going to, because I was trying to figure out what was going on, because the Prozac didn't do it. The Prozac made me worse. And so anyway, I eventually got the complete workup, which we do now here at our medical center, and found out that I was extremely low in testosterone, extremely low in DHEA, low in thyroid, and several other markers. Inflammation was in my body. I had high cholesterol and other issues that were going on that had been, not only had they been missed, they didn't miss because they weren't even tested. I went to 2 different doctors, and both of them said the same thing, oh, you just need Prozac, without doing a single test. So that was an amazing lack of understanding about what's really going on with aging people, and unfortunately still exists to this day. But, I got the treatment that I needed after having a workup at Cenegenics, and, many people even around the world may know the picture of Dr. Jeff Life, who was my doctor. And, he's an amazing guy, and he's still an amazing guy. He's 74, I think, and he was my doctor when I went there and completely diagnosed me correctly and turned it around with, I knew basically the lifestyle, but I wasn't doing as well as I could have. But the main thing was getting me in the testosterone, the DHEA, and the thyroid, and completely turned my life around. I went from a burned out human being at 56 to I think incredibly vital 73-year-old right now. I feel better than I did when I was 56, and we see that in virtually all of our patients, JJ. We have patients on the walls. I think you've been to our office and seen the patients on the walls, and there's a lot of patients that Cenegenics advertises these people, but really the most important is they not only look good on the outside, but they feel good, and the biochemistry has been reversed to a point of, maybe, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I'm saying, up to half your age. And I don't think it's an exaggeration that I feel like I'm about half my age.
You completed a triathlon recently, right?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I completed 3 last year. I'm doing the smaller ones now, but when Jeannie and I were first going out as my wife and registered dietitian, and first things that we did was we started doing triathlons, and we did about 13 of them together, and so that was part of our exercise program at that time, and we were, I was 39, and so we just recently got back to doing triathlons. Now, of course, I'm in an age group where there's not many there, but I virtually always win my age group. And it is, it's obviously very satisfying to be able to compete in such a vigorous athletic endeavor, when you're at my age. But I'm not the exception. We have other men in their 70s competing in beach volleyball who are with people half their age and being competitive, and others doing long distance events. I have several cyclists who are just amazing, who are also beating, people half their age and being competitive with them. And so it's just remarkable. Like I said, though, it's an overall picture. It's not just their, amazing new athletic ability. It's all of the the so-called slowdown symptoms that we have, when we get older, when our hormones are going down the toilet, like decreased energy, you mentioned with me, decreased libido, decreased cognitive feeling, increased fat, decreased muscle mass. Every single one of those gets reversed if you're taking appropriate bioidentical hormones, being followed correctly by an experienced doctor, and are cooperative with the lifestyle changes that you also have to make. So a remarkable group of men and women who are aging really beautifully.
And how long have you been on the bioidenticals?
I've been on it now for over 10 years. It's just been amazing to me. I never in my life when I was half my age, I never would have ever guessed that I'd be feeling this good at my age and better than I was feeling in my 50s. It's been quite a wonderful journey for myself and also, of course, for my patients. The gratification is moving from ER, where you're seeing all burned out patients, basically. I mean, of course, you're seeing accidents and those kind of things too, but I mean, all the elderly patients who are not aging well and they have all the maladies that aging people do. And virtually all of that could be prevented with the program that we have here, or at least postponed. Let's be honest. I mean, we're aging, but we're aging much slower, and the quality of life is still there for decades. I do other tests. I do a vascular test, a vascular elasticity test. I do bone density, and besides like blood tests, which were all the blood tests showing people younger than they were when they started with me, but these arterial elasticity tests and bone density tests, all showing people that they're healthier than they were. Like, I have many people who have been with me for 8+ years. I'm still just I kind of laugh at it now because it's just so typical that when I get these tests, they're better than they were years ago, and yet they're years older. It's like extremely gratifying that I can, tell patients that. And then, for the most part, of course, they're feeling it, but just to have that objective evidence is extraordinary.
And you just said that you feel better at 73 than you did at 50?
I feel much better than I did at 56. I'm probably back to where I felt before I started, accelerating my burnout. I started feeling in my early 50s, and I was still feeling pretty good for my late 40s, my early 50s. But by the time I reached my mid-50s, I was in really bad shape physically and mentally, emotionally. And, that's what you call burnout, I guess.
Right.
And I didn't know, JJ, if I could continue. I didn't know if I was ever going to come back. I quit. I quit being a doctor. I took 18 months off before all of a sudden, I shouldn't say all of a sudden, gradually, but then at the very end, it was kind of suddenly. I went to Jeannie and said, you know what, I feel like going back to work. And that's what I did. And, of course, all I knew at that time professionally was ER work. So I went back to ER. And then Jeannie says, why are you doing that? Because it's like, what kind of joy do you get out of that? Why don't you take what you learned and let's go into practice together? Because she was frustrated that many doctors don't understand what she's trying to do in terms of lifestyle and diet. So they weren't really supportive of that necessarily, and supplements, science-based supplements. It turned out to be a good match, just like we were in marriage. So we developed this practice together and, never looked back. And it's just joyful. I mean, I'm looking forward to next year just as much as I, enjoyed this year.
Excellent. You both are the pictures of health and vitality for sure. So I want to go over, just so everyone's listening, some of the benefits, I know there are many, of bioidentical hormone replacement therapy besides addressing the hormones. But before I talk about menopause and andropause and when that starts, but before we do that, we do need to take a moment to thank our sponsors.
If you are like most people who struggle with overeating, you may feel powerless over your habits and urges to eat. Powerless over what and how much you eat. Break the vicious cycle of emotional eating and take back your power over food with Dr. Lisa Gelper. Dr. Lisa Gelper has helped thousands discover their own power over food and help them to win freedom from the obsession and defeat that haunt yo-yo dieters, emotional eaters, and those who just hope to lose some weight. Visit her site at poweroverfood.com to read her articles, watch her videos, sign up for her monthly email tips, and check out her current classes. Again, that's poweroverfood.com. Is your website working for you? If it's not, and you're frustrated with your brand, website, or current online results, Every Angle Media can help transform your existing business presence and build you a website that works when you're not working. Every Angle Media is a full-service web development firm that specializes in solving problems with open-source solutions. We offer complete design services, custom content management systems, fully integrated e-commerce solutions, cross-platform mobile development, and custom third-party integration, and we're here to help. Visit our site to see our work at everyanglemedia.com or give us a call at 310-798-7228. Again, that's everyanglemedia.com. Okay.
So first, let's address, when do you think that menopause and andropause are happening earlier and earlier? I've been seeing, between adrenal fatigue and our food and the lack of nutrition in a lot of the food that we have and sort of the over-prescription of medications and hormones in our milk, I'm seeing and I'm hearing about people having these symptoms that you're talking about a lot earlier. What do you think about that?
I think you're right, JJ. We've noticed that and been initially surprised, but we're no longer surprised because when we opened the practice and, the education, the course that I had at Cenegenics was mainly geared toward the expectation that you would be dealing with, people in their 50s and 60s. But over the last years, I think we are seeing what you're talking about, and I'm seeing patients younger and younger. And I'm still seeing, of course, 50 and 60-year-olds because they're, hearing about it. And, some of them have been suffering already for years, and their doctor's telling them, oh, you're just getting older, Or what about testosterone? Oh, that's dangerous, it might give you prostate cancer, whatever. The ignorance among people that should know better is just mind-boggling. We are seeing now younger people. I've seen people in 40s, even 30s, men and women, who are already suffering from these, so-called slow-down symptoms and going into, perimenopause, if not menopause, periandropause. I think maybe I'm creating a new diagnosis there, but I think that we are seeing people that are relatively younger than we expected having these same symptoms, and they, of course, get the same benefit when we do the workup and treat them appropriately. So I think you're right, and I think you're right about the causes also. I think that the combination of the toxins that are in our environment today is really criminal.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's unavoidable because it's just everywhere, and you can avoid it the best you can. That's what we, of course, advise people to do, using natural products and organic food, and of course avoiding toxins like cigarettes and other obvious things, and bad food, sugar and refined sugar, and high fructose corn syrup, and gluten, which is a new thing that we're really discovering. More and more people are sensitive to gluten, and gluten is in everything because it's in wheat. And wheat isn't everything. So then people just eat breads and pastas and sweets and cereals by the billions of tons.
Right.
And, whereas it really is inflammatory, and we got to, change people's diets in that direction. So some things that are full on toxins that are like pesticides and heavy metals and things that are in plastic bottles, that we're finding out more and more are so dangerous. And other things are kind of accepted. It's fine to, start off your day with, sugar-laden coffee and a donut, as acceptable socially, and then have some French fries for lunch, and a big bowl of pasta for dinner. So those things are socially acceptable, but they're toxic to the human body because we basically are Paleolithic people and should be eating a Paleolithic diet, which is a hunter-gatherer diet.
Well, we are Paleolithic on this program, so KCTV
Good. I'm glad.
Are 100% paleo, so.
Yeah, there's more and more information, as you know, coming out about it, and we've been to conferences recently where we're just so convinced that. So we've gone from gluten-free to basically grain-free in the last several years because of the fact that even, the brown rices and, even quinoa and some things that are thought to be relatively safe, we'd rather just people avoid them completely and go back to the, healthy fats, healthy proteins, and vegetables.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, for everyone listening who's now very intrigued and they're thinking, well, how can I get tested and where can I get tested and what are some of the benefits besides, obviously if I'm not aware it's my hormones and then I get tested and now I know it's my hormones, what can I expect once I get my hormones in balance and replace whatever I need? What happens? What are the benefits?
Well, that's the big question because, like I said, unfortunately, there's not a lot of doctors that are doing what I'm doing and that have been well-trained and experienced. Because it is, relatively new, and I just still not being taught in medical schools. I was a little encouraged because one of the pharmacists that I know very well has just told me that he was a graduate of the USC Medical School, and he's going to be teaching a course on compounding at the USC Pharmacy School. So that's a step in the right direction. But I think that any information that medical students are getting on compounded hormones or bioidentical hormones is extremely limited and still, 70 years behind the times, which is, rather discouraging. But, I really put my tinfoil hat on, JJ. It's like, why do the pharmaceutical companies want when we're donating these billions of dollars to medical schools, want the medical schools teaching about bioidentical hormones when then they're going to end up with people like me at 73, taking my testosterone, and I don't have to take 7 of their medications, which is what the average 73-year-old is taking.
Yeah.
For the high blood pressure, the antidepressant, the acid blocker, all these terrible drugs that are creating more problems in the long run, but making billions of dollars for the pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
And so, it's going to be a long haul, I think. Maybe eventually, if the government gets involved in preventive medicine, that we will see, hopefully a little turn of the tide here. The government's up against a $500 billion industry. And as you can tell by the battles over, Obamacare in this country, it's not easy to get through that resistance. So we got to get more people and more doctors educated that the test that has to be done. You have to do a full hormone panel. You have to, be seen by a doctor who knows what they're doing. And I just can't give people, unfortunately, I can't give them a lot of advice about who to go to. The Cenegenics program, which I started off with, is very expensive. They are national. I think they're going international. But, to get to somebody like myself who does the Cenegenics program, but I try to work out financially what works for people. There's just not a lot of us around. I do have people coming in from all over the country, and even several people international who are flying in to see me because there's just not a good availability of doctors worldwide. As a matter of fact, on Friday I'm being interviewed by a Swiss television documentary because the Swiss doctor who's going to be involved in it is telling me that even Switzerland is behind. And I generally was thinking that the Europeans are a little bit ahead of us, but he's saying it's not necessarily true. That we don't use a lot of bioidentical hormones in Europe either. That's what the interview is going to be about, and because, they want to learn from us also. Yeah, once you get tested, to answer your question, you can expect reversals of multiple issues that you have. I mean, I'll run it off really quickly, okay?
Yep.
For progesterone, for example, bioidentical progesterone actually reduces the incidence of breast cancer. It reduces the risk of heart attack and stroke, and reduces the chance of diabetes. It reduces osteoporosis and hip fractures, reduces blood pressure, improves sleep, improves anxiety, improves depression tremendously. It improves your cognitive function, improves your sexual function, improves the aches and pains, and it reduces. Then you go into the estrogens, and if you add the two together, you have a reduction in slow down symptoms and these medical problems. 80% reduction in Alzheimer's. I mean, what other medication does that? It's really remarkable. Lowering cortisol, reduced body fat. It's just one thing after the other that it improves, and that's why I and my patients are feeling better than they felt before they start this program by far, and they're reversing some of their medical problems as well as feeling so much better and looking so much better.
And as you said, if someone's successfully taking and balancing out their hormones and taking bioidentical hormones, they're not probably taking any other medications.
That's many times the case. We have a very good record of reducing patients' medication. I mean, I can get almost everybody unless there's a real reason. And I am a medical doctor, so I have to be careful and I have to be cognizant that there are some benefits of some pharmaceutical drugs, but and under certain circumstances, but we have been virtually always able to get people down or off, like I do in a safe manner, a safe and responsible manner, of statin drugs, for cholesterol, of high blood pressure medications, of acid blockers, of antidepressants, of anxiety pills, of sleeping pills. Sometimes that's difficult because once patients get addicted to this stuff, and most of these drugs are not supposed to be used for long term, and the pharmaceutical companies will say that. But they'll also, turn their head and laugh all the way to the bank when doctors prescribe them for patients for all their life. And then, if you get acid blockers, then, that's going to give you osteoporosis. But we got medicine for that, right? That's Fosamax or another bisphosphonate. You get diabetes from a statin drug? Oh, no problem. We got medication for diabetes. The bottom line is, if you were taking the bioidentical hormones and doing the lifestyle changes that we meant for all of our patients in the first place, you would never have been put on these medications. And like I said, we have a very good track record of getting people off the medications, or at least getting them reduced. Now, some people have the genetics of hypertension and the genetics of diabetes, And, they're a little harder to get off these medications, and, obviously you have to do it responsibly. But, and some of the hardest are people that have been on benzodiazepines for sleep or anxiety for 20, 30 years.
And so there is just such a huge calling for everyone to really take a look at their blood work with someone like you in order to really know where they are, because some of their symptoms from other things, like you said, depression, being burnt out, may really just, besides lifestyle, be coming from a real decrease in the hormones. So tell everybody where they can get a hold of you if they'd like to talk to you, maybe get tested by you, come and visit you.
Well, we're in Redondo Beach, California, and our telephone number here is 310-373-7830, and I'm happy to talk to anyone over the phone with no fee. And explain what our program is and how it works, and to see if they would be a candidate for it. They need to be receptive. They need to be coachable. They need to be willing to make changes that they need to change. And then we'll go forward and do this extensive lab test. I have the benefit of a fantastic lab test, which this lab company has cost several $1,000s retail, and I'm able to get it for patients without a copay, which is really remarkable. And then, of course, that's mainly inflammatory factors. And then really extensive. It's not just a little bit of things that most doctors do. Then we do, of course, all the hormones, which most doctors don't do at all. So after that workup, then we will proceed to develop a program for people. JJ, I just wanted to mention our website, if you have a second. It's at www.nourishingwellness, all one word, nourishingwellness.com.
Absolutely. It'll be all on the website on fit2love.tv. Make sure to share this episode with anyone you know who's suffering from depression or weight loss resistance and aging, and you think they may need some help. So again, thank you so much, Dr. Peters.
Well, thank you, JJ. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Do you want to learn more about your hormone health and how to get it properly tested? Then sign up for our Healthy Hormone Kit at nourishingwellness.com. This kit features healthy eating and lifestyle tips to help you heal your hormones naturally. The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly videocasts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If the show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fit2love.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.TV. Have a fit and fabulous day.